It's the 13th, but not a Friday. But I'm still reviewing Friday the 13th. For starters, I enjoyed this movie a lot more than I was expecting. This movie's 40 years old, so I was expecting just to be laughing at all the stuff I was supposed to jump at. For the most part, I did that, but I enjoyed it a lot more than what I was expecting. Now, I like the mystery on who the killer is. Now, I knew it was Jason's mom, but I love the mystery behind it because they don't show who the killer is. It's always in the first-person perspective. And I just like that because we don't see who the killer is until the end. And they're just a normal person. There's nothing special about them. So I just love the mystery behind that of always following the killer in first person. This movie was funny too. Teenagers. They were funny at some parts. The way teenagers act in these Friday the 13th movies, that's kind of what to expect. But when the teenagers are just messing around, I found them to be really funny. Like I said, this movie is enjoyable. I enjoy the mystery of the killer. I enjoy the funniness of it. The kills were also pretty good. The ones we saw on screen, at least. I'll get to that. And I just enjoyed the mystery behind it all. It keeps you on your toes throughout the entire runtime until we see who the killer is. I don't know if this was a problem with the physical release I had of Friday the 13th. When the movie's dark, you can't see anything. These characters were walking around with lanterns when it's pitch black outside, and all you could see was the lantern moving around. You couldn't see anything else. So I can't even see what's happening on screen. It wasn't interrupting the important bits, but I wasn't able to see what was happening on screen at those moments. So I don't know if that was the 4K problem or the movie problem. Now, I did mention this earlier, but this movie's 40 years old. Obviously, it aged. And just the kills, laughable. Like, when these characters were screaming, I found myself chuckling at some parts just because of how old the movie is. But I didn't find it scary. You could tell it definitely aged. Speaking of kills, most of them are off screen. Some are on screen, which the ones on screen I did like. But most of the kills were off screen, and we saw the aftermath of it. Now, I understand you had a budget problem back then and stuff, but I wish we got to see more of the kills on screen. They show more of the kills on screen with the newer movies. Well, as we get through the series, but I wish more of the kills were on screen. Some were, but some weren't pushing the limits that they would. Now, there's not much plot in here either. It's basically these teenagers go to Camp Crystal Lake, and then someone's killing them off. And then we find out who it is at the end of the movie. That's not a lot of plot, especially when the first 40 minutes are just teenagers messing around, and then the other half of the movie is just finding out they're being killed off screen, till we find out who the killer is. There's not much story behind it. It works, but there could have been more story around it too. Most of the story we got was at the end when we found out who the killer was, and she talked about Jason. That's basically where the main story is. That's going to be set up down the line in the franchise. There could have been more plot. But I enjoyed Friday the 13th a lot more than I was expecting. I enjoyed the mystery behind it. Though I know who the killer was, I still found myself really enjoying this movie a lot. I wish some of the kills were on screen. There could have been more plot here and there. And you can tell the movie aged, but I will give Friday the 13th a 7 out of 10. Hey, if you liked this video, maybe these ones on the side would interest you too. Like, subscribe, and see you guys next time. Goodbye.